At the beginning of the movie, a voice describes New Yorkers and their use of cell phones, stating that there are over 3 million New Yorkers with cell phones. At first, it used to be a mark of insanity that people were talking to themselves, but now it's a status symbol, and it's replacing phone booths. Despite having cell phones, an estimated 4.5 million people use phone booths regularly. The voice further says that telephone booths will be replaced by a kiosk at 8 a.m. the following day. The last person to talk in the booth is Stuart Shepard, also known as Stu. Stu is a busy publicist who routinely charms his clients by telling them flattering lies that lead them to trust him. He proceeds to make a call in the same phone booth the narrator was referring to. As soon as he enters the booth, a pizza delivery boy approaches him and tries to deliver a pizza to him. Stu tries to get rid of the delivery guy, but the delivery guy constantly asks him to take the pizza. Stu yells at him and gets rude to him. After the delivery guy leaves, he makes a call to his girlfriend Pam, who's an aspiring actress. He promises Pam that he will connect her up to some auditions for her through a few agents that he knows. He asks her to meet, but she turns him down by saying she has a rehearsal to prepare for. Disappointed, Stu cuts the call. The moment he's about to leave the phone booth, the phone rings. Even though he's surprised, he picks up the phone and hears an unknown voice from the other side, who orders him not to leave the booth until he asks him to do so. In addition, the caller tells him that he should have accepted the pizza, since it will fuel him for the next challenge. Stu thinks it's a prank initially, however he is afraid when he tells him he's watching his every move. Stu looks around and tries to find the caller, but Stu cannot because there's so many windows in the area. The caller mentions a woman named Pamela McFadden. The moment Stu hears her name, he immediately closes the phone booth door. Terrified, he thinks the caller may be some failed actor or intern whom he could have fired in the past and is trying to take revenge. Stu then proceeds to disconnect the call. However, the caller interrupts his intentions by telling him that he needs to call Kelly, Stu's wife. He hangs up the phone before Stu can ask him not to call her. In his next call, the man asks him to call Pam. Stu refuses to do so. Therefore, the caller dials her phone number on his own. Connecting the calls, he puts it on speaker. Pam lifts the phone accepting the call, and the caller introduces himself as a good friend of Stu and tells her that Stu constantly lies to her and that he isn't honest with her. He tells Pam that Stu is also listening to the call, but he can't talk to her. He adds that Stu always calls Pam from a phone booth, since his wife frequently checks his cell phone bills. He does this to keep his wife from finding out. The guy reveals that Stu is married to Kelly and is only trying to flirt with Pam because he wants to sleep with her. Pam says she has no plans to sleep with Stu. Instead, she's only meeting him to talk because she doesn't know many New Yorkers and finds Stu cute, and he has promised to make her a better actress. The caller hangs up the phone, saying Stu has never made anyone a star. After the guy hangs up the call, a prostitute comes to the phone booth and tells Stu to get out of the booth as she wants to make a call. Stu disagrees and asks her to go away. However, the prostitute argues with him and leaves to bring her friend. After she leaves, the caller asks Stu to call Kelly and confess about Pam. He begs him not to contact Kelly and says he'll give his office number so they can talk and sit. The caller doesn't agree to this, and he tells him that if he doesn't call Kelly, he will have to call her. Reluctantly, Stu dials his wife, Kelly. As soon as she picks up the call, she mentions that someone just called here minutes ago and said that Stu would call from a phone booth and tell her something significant. The caller orders Stu to inform her that he invites women from the phone booth to a small, discreet hotel. While Stu is talking to Kelly, the prostitute returns with her friend, bangs on the booth's door, and argues again. Stu yells at the prostitute and tells them to leave or he'll call the cops. As the woman keeps arguing, Stu tells Kelly not to believe anything the caller says and ends the call before saying he loves her without confessing anything about Pam. After he sends the prostitute away from the phone booth, the caller accuses him again of hiding the facts. Stu gets irritated and decides to end the call, but the man warns him not to end the call and threatens to kill him if he does, revealing that he's aiming a sniper rifle at him and can instantly end his life. Stu doesn't believe him, but he's shocked to hear the rifle cocking. Stu warns him that if he's killed, there will be unrest and cops all over the street. While Stu is saying this, the man shoots at a toy outside the booth to show him nobody would care, even if something terrible happened to him, because everyone is too busy living their lives to pay attention. Later, the owner of the toy comes to Stu and shouts at him for his toy. Seeing this, the caller asks Stu if he wants him to take care of that owner, implying that he'll shoot him. Stu says no and compensates the owner for what happened to the toy. Again, another prostitute comes over to use the booth, but Stu doesn't even look at her. The caller now aims at Stu with his rifle and tells him that he's already killed 2 men in the same place because they failed to accept responsibility for their wrongdoings. He tells Stu that their bodies, wallets, and smartphones were on their bodies, and asked why is that, Stu replies that they're not robberies, but executions. In the meantime, a pimp named Leon arrives with the prostitutes and tells him to end his call. As Leon continues to argue, Stu offers him money. However, he refuses and breaks the glass, forcing him to leave. The caller asks whether he wants help removing Leon from the area, but Stu doesn't respond to it. As the woman celebrates in the background, Leon, who is furious with Stewart, picks up a baseball bat and starts to beat him. The caller offers to kill him again. Stewart gets confused by the situation and lets him continue. The caller shoots Leon dead, right in front of him, though it's not what he wants. Panicking, Stu questions the caller why he shot Leon. For this, the caller blames Stu, saying he asked him to do so, and urges Stu to be careful next time as to what he's asking for. He further adds that Leon wanted his respect more than his money, which Stu doesn't give him, and he was not courteous to Leon like the pizza delivery guy. The caller believes that Stu is guilty of inhumanity to his fellow human beings. When Stewart asks questions about his identity, he replies that he observes people through a window and makes them pay for their actions. Stewart discreetly dials 911 while speaking to him, but the man shoots him in the ear, warning that his deception won't go unseen. At the same time, police surround the area and order him to leave the phone booth, while the caller aims the gun at Stu's heart to let him know that if he does anything stupid, he will kill him. He gets worried that the police might shoot him. However, the man assures him that they won't do it in front of so many witnesses, and he will be safe if he does not try to do anything foolish. Following the recovery of Leon's body by the police, Officer Ed Ramey approaches Stu, who starts the process of negotiating with Stu, asking him to surrender. The prostitutes say Stu has a gun in his pocket, despite Stu's claim that he did not shoot anyone. After a while, the guy aims at Officer Ramey and tells Stu to tease him about his wife, which he reluctantly does. Then the caller asks Stu to repeat the words he says and questions about his rights. Ramey replies that he has a right to remain silent and get an attorney, for which Stu asks him to bring his attorney, and Ramey revokes back from there. Meanwhile, media reporters arrive on the scene and begin covering the entire affair. The caller tells Stu that the media will keep the cops in line. Stu's cell phone starts to ring as he speaks to him. However, he can't answer it because doing so will make the cops assume he's attempting to take out his gun. The man still on the phone encourages Stu to pick up the phone, which could be from Kelly, and tell her the truth. He also tells Stu he is in the situation because he's not speaking the truth to anyone. He assumes it's Kelly on the phone again, but Stu notices her approaching the scene and asking the cops to let her talk to him. After seeing her there, Stu finds out that the guy is contacting him on his cell phone because the caller planned that if he had taken it out, the cops would shoot him dead. As Kelly inquires about her husband, the officer informs her that Steve is the prime suspect in Leon's murder, but she cannot believe that Stu can kill someone. Ramey wants Stu to speak with her after they had a conversation with Kelly, but Stu says that they're not married. Kelly asks Stu to comply with the police after handing the officer proof of their marriage, but he yells at her and tells her to leave. The caller informs Stu that he knows the police are attempting to find him, but it is impossible since he has encrypted the call. After Kelly returns at Ramey's request, the caller says that Kelly is an excellent actress, which is why she's dressed up nicely for someone to notice as the media is present. While talking to Stu, he tells him that he's loading and aiming the sniper to kill Kelly. This makes Stu furious, and he begs him not to hurt her. Stu decides to stop talking to him after becoming irritated by the call, but he aims at Kelly and forces him to continue. Stu agrees to follow his instructions and requests that he tells Kelly about his relationship with Pam. Stu calls out to Kelly outside and admits that he's having an affair with Pam. Kelly tells him she doesn't care about anything and wants him to escape this situation safely. Although he promised to release him if he admitted to having an extramarital affair, the man refused to keep his word. He claims that he lied to him just like he does his clients. Out of frustration, Stu ends the conversation and comes out as the snipers approach. While expressing his intentions to surrender, he exits the phone booth. However, as the caller aims at Kelly this time, he picks up the phone again. Stewart tells him that he'll get out of the phone booth telling them the truth, that he did not kill Leon because he did not have a gun. However, the guy reveals that he's already hidden a gun inside the booth ceiling. He further tells Stewart his location, which is at a nearby apartment. Pam arrives at the scene, so the guy orders him to grab the gun and shoot Kelly, or Pam, or he'll do it himself. Stu sits down and pretends to take his ring, but he's making a call to Kelly so that she may hear the conversation. Stu begs the caller not to harm her. Kelly rushes to Officer Ramey and hands him the phone. Officers hear about the sniper and request that they conduct a covert search without letting on that they're aware of him. Ramey walks to the phone booth after discovering Stu's innocence and continues talking to him for a while. The caller asks Stu to pick up the gun or confess his lies. Ramey heads to the cars after dropping a clue that they have the information and are trying to find the caller. Feeling trapped in the situation, Stu accepts that he's never done anything for anyone and lies to everyone around him. After admitting to having an affair with Pam, he reveals her to Kelly. In addition, he apologizes to Kelly for being an unfaithful husband and claims that she deserves a better guy than him. Stu tells the man that even though he knew he wouldn't let him go, he still revealed the truth because he wants to make things right with Kelly. Meanwhile, the caller's address is tracked by the police, and the officers tell Stu that he'll be released soon. Stu warns the man that the cops are on his tail, but the man believes Stu is lying to him, just like he does to everyone else. Stu suffers an emotional breakdown as the caller threatens to kill Kelly. He takes the gun from the booth ceiling and exits the phone booth, pleading with the caller to shoot him instead, but the police shoot him. Officer Ramey answers the phone, but his squad informs him that the man had slit his throat with a knife after finding the apartment. Stu, who was struck by rubber bullets, soon began to feel better. Kelly runs over to him, and they reconnect after she forgives him for his actions. Stu discovers the man's body who had called him, and it's none other than the pizza delivery guy. He's taken to an ambulance for first aid, after which the nurse administers an injection that makes him hardly see anything. The actual caller arrives, and he says that if his newfound honesty does not stay long, he might see him again, and leaves smiling. If you enjoyed that recap, I got a good feeling that you'll like this one too. Click on the video on your screen for more.